I'm Christine Stavropoulos.
Και εγώ ο Νίκος Σαμίδης. Και αυτό είναι το Greek Podyssey, το podcast της Ομογένειας.
A podcast for Hellenes worldwide, sharing stories, culture, identity, laughs and a little bit of tsugrisma along the way.
Γιατί μπορεί να φύγαμε από την Ελλάδα, αλλά η Ελλάδα δεν έφυγε ποτέ από μας.
Welcome to another episode of the Greek Podyssey. Hello, Nico.
Hello, Christine. Welcome to another episode of the Greek Pod.
I'm really excited about this hot topic that we are presenting today. We get hammered about it. It's on every social media page. So today we're diving into one of the most misunderstood and debated topics in Balkan history, the Macedonian issue. Many myths exist about Macedonian identity, but to understand the reality, we need to look at the history, the politics, and the struggles of this geographical region. We'll explore 6 key periods that shape what we now call the Macedonian question. And along the way, we'll pose some important questions to guide our understanding. And of course, we welcome all the comments because we know that there will be very many. But it's not going to be Nico and I that are presenting our view. We have an expert, a scholar with us. I will introduce Dr. Panayotis Diamadis, born and raised and educated in Sydney, completing 4 qualifications at the University of Sydney, the highest being a doctorate. This PhD thesis and chief research interest is the genocide of the indigenous Hellenes of Pontus, Asia Minor, and Thrace, together with the genocide of the indigenous Armenians and Assyrians of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. Of particular interest to Diamadis are Australian interactions with the Hellenes, Armenians and Assyrians in their homeland since the 19th century. Dr. Diamadis is a board member of the Australian Institute for Holocaust and Genocide Studies, amongst other education and community roles. Wow, what a biography. Welcome to the Greek Podyssey, Panayotis.
Thank you for the invitation.
Panayotis or doctor, what would you prefer?
Just Panayotis is
Panayotis is fine.
We're not in a classroom, we're not in a lecture theatre. Panayotis is fine.
So let's have just a little quick snapshot. We met up with Panayotis, Nikos and I, and we touched on this subject and we said, you know what, we need to present it as a podcast. We've been looking forward to it and it's probably going to be the pinnacle of season 2. So let's get to it. Let us a little bit about yourself and just walk us through into the subject.
My family is from northern and western Greece, Yanina specifically, Etolokatnanias. What you didn't mention in your intro, thank God, because now I can, is that my master's thesis was on the Macedonian issue, but specifically in an Australian context rather than what was happening in Europe. I wrote about how the events in Europe were influencing the communities here in Australia, particularly since the 1930s, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, I deliberately didn't mention that because I wanted you to mention it.
Thank you for the buzzer.
She's doing all the time. Just missed it. And because it's a big welcome, Panayoti. First of all, thanks for coming here. And because it's an issue that someone can take it from the ancient times and bring it to now, to these days, let's have a small introduction about, not a very long one, because based on your thesis, the issue, the Macedonian issue, is about 200 years old, if I'm not mistaken, 150? 150 years old. Before that, there wasn't an issue. So let's take it a bit further back.
Yep.
And let's talk about the region. So what was Macedonia?
Okay. Some of the oldest human fossils in Europe have been found in Macedonia, in the Battleground cave. And we're talking about 600,000-700,000 years old. So people have been living in this region for a very long time for a really simple reason. It's rich. It has lots of natural resources, plenty of fresh water, plenty of farmland, forests for timber, etc., mines discovered later on. So the peoples who lived there, the borders of their kingdoms were constantly shifted. The Illyrians would expand from what is now Albania, the Thracians from what is now Bulgaria and Western Thrace, and there was no real Macedonia until a particular guy called Philip, the second king of his name, formed what we would call Macedonian kingdom with some really stable borders, simply because he formed the most powerful army in the world at the time, in that part of the world at the time, thanks to the mineral wealth of the gold mines of Amphipoli, near Kavala. He develops this, His son, of course, I need to mention his fourth wife, the first one who was Greek. He married a total of 7 girls, had children with all of them, but the fourth one was the first Greek one. Her brother was the king of Epirus, which everybody knows is the best part of Greece.
Of course.
Of course.
When we say he married a Greek girl, so some people will say there was no Greece back then. And how you say, like, an Athenian?
Exactly.
An Athenian.
But
So,
this is, in her case, she was Molossian, was the royal family.
okay.
Their capital was not modern Yanina, it was a bit further south, at the southern end of the valley. I don't know if you know the area.
Yeah.
But this is how they thought. We are all Hellenists, we are all Hellene. But politically, you're a Masso, you're Athenian. They sit down the bottom in their own little world. Politically, they're completely separate. Culturally, religiously, what we would call ethnically, but ethnic is a very modern term. Didn't exist in their world. And the ultimate proof that they consider themselves one people is the Olympic Games.
Mm-hmm.
Olympic Games was not a sporting contest. It was a religious one.
Yes.
In honor of Zeus. And only Greeks were allowed to participate until the Roman conquest.
And Panayoti, that's the point, because on a lot of the comments that we have on our podcast, Greece didn't exist. You're not Greek. They're confusing being Hellenism with when Greece was formed as a unified country. They can't distinguish between the two. But like you said, the Olympic Games is the testament to unification of Hellenes, be it Sparta, all the different regions came together.
We have records of Olympic athletes from as far as what we call Spain, from a colony called Emborio, today Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah.
As far east as the Caucasus Mountain, modern Armenia. This was all the Greek world.
So that's how far we expanded into geographically.
There were Greek colonies all around what we call Pontus, the Black Sea. There were Greek colonies in North Africa. There was even a Greek colony in Egypt.
Hellenic,
more accurately. All right. We have trade going on. We have Greek artifacts, Hellenic archaeology, coins especially, as far as Southeast Asia.
Can I ask you something? Is King Philip and Alexander the Great Hellene?
They considered themselves.
Okay.
Philip was an Olympic champion.
And only Greeks were allowed to compete.
Only Hellenes were allowed to compete until the Roman conquest, which was 200 years after Philip was dead.
Yes.
What's the most, because we have to close that chapter.
We really should.
Yeah. What's the most profound evidence that that region, Macedonia, along with the King Philip and Alexander the Great, were Hellene?
Their own speeches, they consider themselves Hellenes, but for me, the best evidence, proof, let's call it, is the Bella Katadesmos.
What's that?
It's a lead scroll. So it's a piece of lead. Somebody wrote a curse, katara, on it,
Yeah.
rolled it up and buried it. This was not a king.
What was the katara?
The katara was, may he never find happiness until he comes back to me.
Right.
It was written by a woman
Okay.
whose man had left her for another woman.
Yes.
Classic Shakespearean Greek tragedy, classic human behavior. Okay, the Bella Katara is now in the Bella Museum. It's about a meter long, but it's written by an average Macedonian. It's written in the Macedonian dialect, the Hellenic dialect, the Greek of the people of the region, not the royal house, people.
When you say the Macedonian dialect, let's differentiate. What was the Macedonian dialect? Because then that will unpack a lot of...
Okay, ancient Hellenic was not what they teach today, ancient Greek. What they call ancient Greek in schools today is Kini, right? The common. It's based on the dialect of Athens.
Mm-hmm.
Ionian Greek. The Spartans, the Macedonians, they all spoke Doric Greek.
Right.
Which was the snobbish Athenians would call basically like bogans. It's like you're hillbillies. You have this thick accent and you don't really say things properly. So, for example, the name Veronica in the north, we would say Veroniki. In the south, it became Veroniki.
Veroniki.
Or in English, Veronica, bringer of victory. Written the same way, but the C is pronounced more like a V sound and different dialect, different way. Even today.
Did the Macedonians spoke the same dialect with, let's say, Spartans?
They were close. Their dialect was closer to the Spartans than to the Athenians.
Okay.
Because they were both Dorians, because the Spartans had come down from the north.
Yes.
So speaking Macedonian, you were speaking Greek, a dialect of Greek.
Dialect of Greek.
So what is this confusion that exists? It's political, it's historical, and it's a mismatch.
It's not confusion, it's an issue.
It's an issue.
Some people took advantage of that. And let's say that the average people, they've been taught this story. So that's what they learn at school.
Yeah.
Their books, they're saying this kind of thing. And the bad thing is that they're coming in conflict with what is being taught now in the universities.
Yeah.
because ancient history and classical history, it's the clash together when you compare the two stories. Doesn't make a sense.
And that's the issue with history. It's who owns history, it's who writes the history. But you only look at history when you bring up archaeological evidence that you have at hand through your, PhDs and a lot of your...
Right down to the high school level. This is how you study, even down at the HSC, year 11, year 12, even right down to year 7. What are the sources? How do we know this? How do we know Aboriginal people were in Australia that long ago? How do we know that man existed? Because we've found his bones. We look at the physical evidence. And from about 3,000 years ago, we start having writing,
yes,
which adds a new dimension to the evidence. Now, can we read it? Linear A, no, we can't read it. There's not enough to decipher it. Linear B has been deciphered, which is Minoica, the ancestral language of Crete.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which then we believe that's mixed with the Dorians coming down from the north and producing what we call classical Greek, or Archaea Ellinica.
We asked you from the onset to bring... We had a vision of having a debate, having that presents the Greek, the Hellenic aspect, and you said there's no opposing academic. Not in Australia.
Not in Australia.
What would that be the reason? What? It's just because
the real reason is there's only one group of people that actually accept the contrary view.
Yes.
And they're all from Skopje.
Exactly.
There was an academic at Macquarie University for a number of years, but he's since retired, and they didn't replace him.
What was his view?
His view, he was born and raised in Skopje. His family were from there. He agreed with me on one thing. This was a geopolitical, a political issue,
yes,
in which history is used as an argument, supporting evidence, as we said before.
So they're using history to support a political argument.
To justify political arguments.
What's the worldwide consensus?
There's hardly any universities outside Skopje, basically none, that teach the ancient Macedonians were not part of the Hellenic world.
And that's a fact.
Let's leave aside the ancient. Let's leave the ancient. Let's go to biblical. Let's go to Roman period. When St. Paul did his travels, he went to Kavala, he went to Thessaloniki, wrote letters which are now in the Bible. What language did he write in?
Greek.
What language did he speak to these people in?
Greek. That's it.
Okay.
Moving on.
Let's wrap it up.
Yes.
And let's move on, because I think it will take days. So let's start with the basics. The Macedonian issue is often misunderstood as a purely historical or ethnic question, but its core, it's political. The central issue has always been control over the geographic territory of Macedonia, not identity, not culture, power and influence. So the question we need to ask is, why is this Macedonian issue primarily a political dispute rather than historical one?
You already pointed it out, because it's about who controls this geographic territory. Who controls, in ancient times, especially in Roman times, the Egnadia Odos, the road that went from Constantinople across to the Adriatic Sea, right across southeastern Europe. Basically the Roman highway.
Yeah.
Okay? Today, so in the 1800s.
Is the Roman highway the Egnatia?
Up until around Kozani.
Yeah.
That's basically the same route as the Roman road.
Yes. Okay.
There are a few differences here and there, but it's basically the same route.
Okay.
Then the Roman one swings up into Voriepiro to end up at Avlona, whereas today it comes down through Yana to Ilmenica.
Yeah.
So you had, even in antiquity, you had this control, the control over Kavala. Why? Kavala is the best port in that northern Aegean
parts. Yes. True.
Alexandroupolis is less than 100 years old as a port.
Yeah.
Kavala is a natural port. Okay. Why did they build Thessaloniki there? Thessaloniki was built not by Alexander, which is a lot of people think it is. It was built by his successor, Cassander, named after his wife. There's a present for you.
Thessaloniki.
So she was named after her father's victory over the Thessalians.
There you go.
Actually,
Yeah.
and his father was Cassandros. Very correct. I've done my homework.
But why did he pick that spot? Because that is where the port was for Pella, the ancient capital. Remember, what we now call Western Thessaloniki, that river plain, that was all swamp. That was all marshland. These are the ones who started to drain it to turn it into farmland for the port, because it's the mouth of the Axios River. The Vardari goes all the way up into Serbia. You can sail up. Back in the day, you could, not today, but shallow bottom ships could go all the way up. So it was a main trade route.
And that's how the name Bardaska came from.
That's why the province is called Bardarska.
Because of the river.
Named after the river.
Yeah, okay. That makes
what we
sense.
call the Axios, but in the Slavs did call it Vardar.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting the idea that even today it is a economic stronghold, an economic center because of its geography. Think about it. Like a Stavro, like a cross. East-west, you've got the main highway, the Egnadia. North-south, you've got the railway goes up the side of the river valley. And that railway from Thessaloniki goes all the way to Vienna.
So it was such a strategic
And
position.
still is.
It still is.
And the whole war was about who controls that city, which until 1922, basically, was majority Jewish, which is another thing people forget.
Yes, it was.
For 500 years, Thessaloniki was majority Jewish population.
How did that come about?
The Iberian expulsions, 1492, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue and smacked into America and called it India. He was looking for India, but was smacked into what we call America. That same year, the King and Queen of Spain said, anybody that's not Christian, in other words, Catholic, bye, see you later, get out. And literally hundreds of thousands of people left. And a lot of them settled in Thessaloniki. Why Thessaloniki? Trade. They knew about it from trade before they left.
The Jews always know where the trade is, don't they?
Well, they have family connections.
Exactly, yeah. And there's still there's a village, there's still a Jewish quarter.
Let's have a break from this interesting topic for Lucas's Theodoro segment and Helco Consulting. Tips and advices for all your business and investments in Greece. Please note, the content of this podcast is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, financial, or professional advice. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and should not be relied upon for making decisions. Always consult a qualified professional for advice tailored to your situation.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Greek Podyssey, where we'll be talking all things business in Greece. We've been talking for a few weeks now about the employment market, various visa options, and how can we access them as not only diaspora Greeks, but non-Greeks wanting to come, live here and stay here. The government is playing an increasingly important role now in getting Greeks of the diaspora back to Greece. And the Ministry of Labour and Employment have created a structure over the last few years through the government called Rebrain Greece, an organisation under the Ministry of Labour that its sole purpose is to repatriate knowledge, talent, and Greeks back to Greece from all around the world. Rebrain Greece is an organisation that started in collaboration with some of the biggest Greek companies, including all the major banks, shipping, energy, oil and gas, real estate, and in collaboration with these sectors and these companies, initially it was a means for these companies to fill their talent shortages and labour shortages, but also to bring in the knowledge that the diaspora Greek learned from their time in London, in Amsterdam, in New York, in Australia, back to Greece. The global knowledge and the global talent is extremely valuable to Greek companies, and the government is increasingly seeing the value and the potential of Greeks that have moved or left or the diaspora to come back. We are starting to see companies also starting to match salaries, and through our conversations with Rebrain Greece and the ministry, we have seen that companies, especially in the finance sector and engineering roles, are starting to increasingly match salaries to 3, 4 and 5,000 euro a month for senior management positions, and obviously directors and up. It is really important to see the job market growing. It is extremely important to see that companies and sectors are partnering with organizations like Rebrain Greece to bring this knowledge and talent back to Greece. And over the last 3 years, Rebrain Greece with the Ministry of Labour have organised events all around the world, in Amsterdam, in New York, in London and Paris, to get Greeks back to Greece and obviously help people understand that there are opportunities out there, help people understand that you can make career growth, there are opportunities for your future in Greece, and not only just career growth, but there are financial incentives now also that the government have put in place to be able to get people back here and help people acclimatise back into the job market after potentially being away for more than 10 years. Thank you for listening to another episode of Helco Consulting's Business Sector.
Let's go to the next section, Pan-Slavism and the creation of Bulgaria. The Macedonian question really begins in the 1870s. At this time, Moscow promoted the idea of Pan-Slavism, the belief that all Slavs should be united under Russian influence. Another Russo-Turkish war, the Kingdom of Bulgaria, was created under Russian protection. How did Russia's Pan-Slavism influence the creation of the Kingdom of Bulgaria and its ambitions in Macedonia?
The idea of modern nationalism, ethnikismos,
Yeah.
really starts with the French Revolution of 1789, the Republic. The idea that you can have an identity belonging to a state, but without it anything to do with religion.
Yes.
Okay, it's the late 1700s, early 1800s. This idea of the nation state begins. And the first true nation state was Greece, 1830. It was a state set up for Orthodox Greek-speaking people.
So why was there an identity? Why did they want to claim an identity that wasn't theirs?
At this stage, there's nothing to do with identity. At this stage, it was all about the Russians. The Russians wanted to expand their influence into warm water ports.
Right.
Crimean War, 1850s, expanding, and they created Bulgaria as a little satellite, a little, basically, a minion of Moscow.
Because like the headquarters of the South.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, it was a geopolitical control
Completely.
issue.
So the Bulgarians get set up in the 1870s. They set up their own Orthodox church, the Exarchato, the first national church. And from here, you start getting the development of Bulgarian identity along as part of this Pan-Slavs, that all Slavs belong under one empire, basically under Moscow. All Germans belong under the German Empire. These are the ideas that are coming up, that are being developed.
So their aim is to bring all Slavs in Macedonian
All
Thrace
Slavs in Europe
under Bulgarian control, correct?
under Moscow's control.
Yeah, but through the Bulgarians,
specifically in Macedonia and Thrace, yes. Under Sofia. You literally have in the 1880s onwards until about the Balkan Wars, you really have a civil war going on between Slav-speaking who want to follow Moscow and Sofia, and Greek, Vlach, other speakers who want to continue following Patriarchio, the Patriarchate. And when I say civil war, I mean literally they are burning each other's churches, they are killing each other, guerrilla bands fighting. Now, to expand their influence, the Bulgarian Secret Service sets up this new organization called the VMRO, the Internal Macedonian Revolutionary Organization.
What was their function?
This was not an ethnic or a national group. This was Macedonian in terms of regional, in terms of geography. The role was to cultivate the development of pro-Bulgarian sentiment amongst anybody that would listen inside Macedonia. Which
So it was propaganda.
At this time, it was still controlled by the Turks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was still part of the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
Everybody can see, because in the 1800s, the Russians and the Turks had 5, from memory, wars. The Turks lost all 5.
Yeah.
Well, okay, they lost 4 and had 1 draw.
Yes.
Because the British came in with the Crimean War. So everybody could see the Ottoman Empire was falling apart. It was weak.
So what was the core purpose of this Bulgarian, was it purely
to expand Bulgarian influence amongst the population.
Right.
Bulgarian schools were set up. Even in Thessaloniki, Thessaloniki had a Bulgarian school.
So it was essentially propaganda arm.
Purely.
So how Misirkov, his idea and writings contributes to the ideological birth of Macedonian?
This is our fault. Hriste Misirkov was educated in Athens, but because he spoke Greek with an accent, he was made fun of as a varvaros, a barbarian.
Yeah.
In the ancient sense of the term barbarian.
Yes, yeah.
Why did he go to Athens and not Sofia? Because he considered himself, Athens is the center of education, of learning. It's classical, but by making fun of him, they turned him against them. So he wrote a seminal text called On Macedonian Matters. You can find this on the web in English, translated into English. And this is the first time we get to develop, this is 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
This is how late it is.
Yeah.
The first time we see this Macedonian identity as neither Bulgarian nor Greek,
Emerging.
nor Serbian. Something by itself.
Okay.
So it's barely 150 years old. It's barely 130 years old.
They tend to confuse what you're saying is a very modern historical formation construct, but they seem to always try to grapple with ancient roots and try and validate the ancient creation and the roots to find some sort of ownership of this identity.
You use the 2 very key words, validate, ownership. That's exactly what we're talking about. The people who disagree with Macedonia being part of the Greek world, being Hellenic, are all about trying to undermine Hellenic identity and ownership of Macedonian heritage, which is really impossible. Because even when you cross the border, you go into Skopje, the first thing you bump into, apart from Monastiri, which today is called Bitola, is next to it is Irapia Linkesti.
Very Greek.
It's an ancient city. It's long abandoned. It's an archaeological site now.
Yes.
But every single inscription is in Greek. There's a few Latin ones, but everything's basically in Greek. Why? This is the language of the people who lived there.
That's an evidence.
I keep coming back to the evidence.
Yeah, of course.
Everything's evidence-based. What were the Ottomans' view about this
Pay your
identity?
taxes and shut up.
That's it. They weren't involved
They
in...
didn't care.
They didn't care.
Don't
The
care.
more the two Christian groups were fighting each other, the easier it was for them to rule.
Yeah.
True.
Divide and conquer.
And after that, we see Bulgarians and Hellenes, Greeks, fighting together against the Ottomans. We're going there.
Yep. We go to the Macedonian struggle of the early 1900s, the peak of the civil war. It basically results in the Bulgarian power being restricted pretty much to the far north of geographic Macedonia. We end up then with the Balkans Wars, where basically the governments get together and go, look, let's stop being knuckleheads. Let's get rid of the Muslim. Let's get rid of the Turk. Then we can sort out where the borders are going to be.
And how did Hellas and Bulgaria go from allies against the Ottomans to rivals over control of Macedonia and Thrace?
There's a great Greek word, interests.
Interests.
They could sort it out themselves later. And don't forget, it wasn't just Bulgaria and Greece. Serbia and Montenegro were also involved. They had their own interests.
What were those interests?
Expand their territory. More territory means more revenue, more resources, more power. So you had the Serbians coming down into Skopje and further south, us pushing up from Thessalia up into Kozani, Elassona, and then swinging around Kilkis, Florina.
It's like you're moving your hand like that. It's like I'm watching the map now. From Elassona, there you go. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
Thessaloniki person, you understand. Yeah. Because Thessaloniki was so important, what did the Greek army bypass on their left? Yanina.
Yes.
They left Yanina alone. They completely cut it off.
Why?
Thessaloniki was way more important.
Right, yes.
The Greek troops entered Thessaloniki 4 hours before the Bulgarians did. 4 hours. It was a real race.
Real race, absolutely.
And part of the race was the king disagreeing with the prime minister. So at this time we had King Constantine, whose wife was a woman called Sophia. Who was her brother? The Kaiser for Germany.
Yes.
He wanted to link Greece up with Austria-Hungary and therefore with Germany, which means Thessaloniki and all the way up the River Valley.
Yeah.
Okay. So he wanted to go left and go.
They've always wanted Greece. They've always wanted it, haven't they?
Geography. It's our blessing and our curse.
Yeah, exactly.
Venizelos understood that if he lost Thessaloniki, he loses the Aegean.
Yeah.
And for him, the Aegean was everything. Because ultimately what he wanted was Smyrni and Anatoliki Thrace, Thrace.
So what did he do strategically?
He literally sent a telegram. The telegram exists. It's public knowledge, public evidence. Sends a telegram to Constantine, says, either you turn right and take Thessaloniki, or I will court-martial you and shoot you personally.
Right.
So they did.
They court-martialed him?
No.
Oh.
No, as we know.
I wish they had. Maybe we wouldn't have lost Smyrni.
Yeah.
That's true.
And Eastern Thrace. So that's how it ended up, 1912. This is October 1912 till the beginning of 1913. Then you have a short war. Yanina gets liberated. Mm-hmm. My grandparents suddenly go from being Ottoman citizens to Greek citizens. One of the first quarter liberated was my one.
Yeah.
Because there's one mountain between us. You know, you've heard of the Battle of Bizani. There's one mountain we're on one side. We're on the west side. We're on the east side. They're on the west side of the same mountain. Is across the valley from us.
Coming up next, our legal segment with our legal expert, Natasha Karamihu.
Hello, I'm Natasha Karamihu, and in this podcast, we will explore the interesting topic of buying and selling a property in Greece. First of all, what is actually a property buying or selling act? The sale of a property is the transfer of ownership from the seller to the buyer in exchange for the payment of an agreed price. It is a legal procedure that involves the preparation of a notarial deed and its registration at the relevant land registry office. To sell a property, it is important to acknowledge the necessary documents, costs, and procedure. For example, the costs associated with the sale, such as transfer tax and the fees of the notary public, a lawyer, and an estate agent. The last two only if you decide to involve them in this transaction. What happens at the stage of the advance payment? An advance payment is usually given in a private agreement, which mentions the terms that have been verbally agreed. The agreement includes the details of the parties, the agreed selling price, the method of payment, and the terms of the contract. Particular attention should be paid to cases where the buyers are being lent by banks. In these cases, it should be checked that they have at least the individual pre-approval for the amount the property is being sold for to avoid unnecessary discrepancies. Depending on the circumstances, an authorized preliminary purchase agreement can be signed with stronger legal power to protect the seller in case the buyer withdraws from the purchase agreement without a cause. Regarding the collection of the necessary documents for the sale of the real estate, the buyer selects the notary who will be in charge of the contract drafting, and he or she will indicate the necessary documents collection to complete the transfer. After the collection of the documents, the final contract for the transfer of the property is drawn up. The notary will indicate the order in which the certificate should be issued. Some documents may need to be collected earlier than others. For example, the engineer may find a difference between the actual square footage of the property and the statements on the plans at the tax authorities. Then he or she must declare the actual square meters. This will have an impact on the house tax, NFIA, the real estate tax, and the energy performance certificate, among other documents. A lawyer can be authorized to collect all these documents on your behalf and to speed up the process. He or she will also carry out the necessary research and control of the property titles. If legal liabilities are found by the buyer's lawyer, the seller's lawyer should be contacted so that the amounts due, if any, can be paid and proceed with the removal. In summary, the documents required to complete the transfer of the property are, among others, the title deeds, building permit, tax and insurance returns, NFIA, the house tax certificate for the last 5 years, declaration of property transfer tax, certificate of the municipality that no real estate tax is due for the transferred property, income tax return. Once all the above is said, the final signing of the contract will follow. The buyer and seller appear at the notary's office for the reading and signing of the contract. In addition, the notary may ask the lawyer who conducted the initial title control to do a final check at the land registry to ensure nothing has changed. Then the contract is printed and the parties sign it. The buyer transfers the money to the seller's bank account. This can be done either via bank transfer or by bank check, thus completing the purchase of the property on the day the final contract is signed, and provided that the price is paid in full to a bank account of the same bank. However, when the total or part of the price is paid in installments or by transfer from another bank, therefore the amount cannot appear directly in the seller's account, the terms of the contract must be drafted accordingly for the safety of the seller. After the signing of the contract, the buyer must ensure the registration of an official copy of the contract at the competent land registry office. At the same time, he or she receives the corresponding registration certificate. From that point, he or she becomes the full owner of the property. As we all understand, the process of selling a property in Greece is not simple or straightforward, it is quite bureaucratic. However, apart from the bureaucratic issues, it is very important that the relationship between the seller and the buyer is properly settled from the beginning, so that the sale process runs smoothly. In summary, the sale of a property is a process that requires care, organization, and knowledge of its legal and financial aspects, which is why a lawyer's assistance is essential before signing any agreements or final contracts.
So that's what, just to give an idea, the people listening, that's where the borders
That's what the borders were at that time.
started to
Shift
taking a shape and shape.
what it is today. And that's where I was going to go next.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we have the borders today are really, except for a few bits and pieces, settled by 1913. And it's literally, this is where Miami got up to, so this is now mine.
Yes.
So that's why you got that border with Serbia, the old Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
The border with, the northern border with Bulgaria. Western Thrace was then under Bulgarian control, but they lost it at the end of World War I, a few years later.
Fascinating. Let's move to the interwar period and the formation of the Slavo-Macedonian identity.
So that's the hot part, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So
Finally, the interwar period saw the rise of the Slavo-Macedonian identity. After decades of failed Bulgarian attempts to control geographic Macedonia, many followers, especially in Yugoslavia and Greece, turned to communist parties. The Kukuē advocated an autonomous Macedonia with a Balkan federation. A major factor in the shift was the settlement of survivors from the genocide of Hellenes, Armenians and Assyrians in Macedonia and Thrace. Locals were often jealous that properties went to survivors rather than to them. So how did the failure of Bulgaria to secure geographic Macedonia and the settlement of genocide survivors influence the rise of a Slavo-Macedonian identity and communist movements in the region?
And you want me to answer this question in 2 minutes?
No. You can have a bit more.
No, you can have 3.
Okay, 3. Look, really simple.
And the myths that Greeks colonized.
The royalist governments in Sofia had tried twice, both from the Ottomans, 3 times. Balkans Wars, World War I to take over, and they failed each time. So the local pro-Bulgarians go, these guys are losers. We're going to find somebody else that's going to give us what we want, which is our own state. Remember, this is now a generation after Misidakov, getting into 2 generations after Misidakov.
Mm-hmm. So now we're talking about 90...
Now we're talking about the 1920s, after the genocide, and into the 1940s, into World War II.
Okay, yes.
Okay? So, for their own political purposes, the Communist Party of Greece, the Kukuē, makes a statement in 1924 saying we support a Balkan federation. So all countries in the Balkans become one communist federation, USSR style, including an independent Macedonia.
Right. So it started from there.
Well, it got a big push then.
A big push.
It started
It
earlier.
got a bit of a support.
But the momentum picked
It's
up.
the first non-Bulgarian party that announced its support for a united, in inverted commas, Macedonia.
And what was their motive for that? Was it just
Power.
the power of the political left?
Get political support, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They
still,
backtracked about 8 years later. They dumped the position and they go, oh, we support rights for all minorities.
the standards.
But the damage was done.
Yes.
Now, especially in the heartland of this was what we call Western Macedonia. So the areas of Kastoria and Florina and Edessa, which were cut off from Bulgaria. And because a lot of people know about the so-called, I hate the phrase, exchange of populations.
Yes.
It's such a misnomer. It was ethnic cleansing.
It was ethnic cleansing, exactly.
Those who had survived the genocide in east of the Evros River, basically any Christian,
I hate that term too, Panayoti.
was told, leave, you're going west.
Yeah.
Any Muslim, except for Traki, was sent east. At the same time, Bulgarians were expelled from Eastern Macedonia.
To
Bulgaria. And Greeks were expelled south. So we had a lot of Sarakatani and Vlachi who came from Bulgaria, from Filipopoli, for example, Plovdiv, Messimvria. There's a number of places I could talk about, but those particularly because there's a lot of poets came out and writers came out of that.
Yeah.
And that's so the pro-Bulgarians that are left are only in the mountains of Pindos, only in Florina, the triangle, Florina, Kastoria, Edessa.
What's the population there like now? Is it the same? Like,
that's got the highest depopulation rate in Europe.
right. Due
The
to?
fastest. No economic opportunities.
Yes.
And I can imagine the people at that era to live from one night to the other, their families be split.
So what we have the borders today are really, except for a few bits and pieces, settled by 1913. And it's literally, this is where Miami got up to, so this is now mine.
Yes.
So that's why you got that border with Serbia, the old Yugoslavia, the border with the northern border with Bulgaria. Western Thrace was then under Bulgarian control, but they lost it at the end of World War I, a few years later.
Fascinating. Let's move to the interwar period and the formation of the Slavo-Macedonian identity.
So that's the hot part.
Yes.
Okay. So
finally, the interwar period saw the rise of the Slavo-Macedonian identity. After decades of failed Bulgarian attempts to control geographic Macedonia, many followers, especially in Yugoslavia and Greece, turned to communist parties. They advocated an autonomous Macedonia with a Balkan federation. A major factor in the shift was the settlement of survivors from the genocide of Hellenes, Armenians and Assyrians in Macedonia and Thrace. Locals were often jealous that properties went to survivors rather than to them. So how did the failure of Bulgaria to secure geographic Macedonia and the settlement of genocide survivors influence the rise of a Slavo-Macedonian identity and communist movements in the region?
And you want me to answer this question in 2 minutes?
No. You can have a bit more.
No, you can have 3.
Okay, 3. Look, really simple. The royalist governments in Sofia had tried twice, both from the Ottomans, 3 times. Balkans Wars, World War I to take over, and they failed each time. So the local pro-Bulgarians go, these guys are losers. We're going to find somebody else that's going to give us what we want, which is our own state. Remember, this is now a generation after Misidikov, getting into 2 generations after Misidikov.
Now we're talking about 90...
Now we're talking about the 1920s, after the genocide, and into the 1940s, into World War II.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so for their own political purposes, the Communist Party of Greece makes a statement in 1924 saying we support a Balkan federation. So all countries in the Balkans become one communist federation, USSR style, including an independent Macedonia.
Right. So it started from there.
Well, it got a big push then.
A big push.
It started early.
But the momentum picked up.
It's the first Bulgarian that announced its support for a united, in inverted commas, Macedonia.
What was their motive for that? Was it just the power of the political left?
Get political support, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And backtracked about 8 years later, they dumped the position and they go, we support rights for all minorities. But the damage was done.
Yes.
Now, especially in the heartland of this was what we call Western Macedonia. So the areas of Kastoria, Florina, and Edessa, which were cut off from Bulgaria because a lot of people know about the so-called, I hate the phrase, exchange of populations.
Yes.
It's such a misnomer. It was ethnic cleansing.
It was ethnic cleansing, exactly.
Those who had survived the genocide in east of the Evros River, basically any Christian, was told, leave, you're going west.
Yeah.
Any Muslim, except for Traki, was sent east. At the same time, Bulgarians were expelled from Eastern Macedonia.
To?
Bulgaria. And Greeks were expelled south. So we had a lot of Sarakatsani and Vlachi who came from Bulgaria, from, for example, Plovdiv, Mesembria. There's a number of places I could talk about, but those particularly because there's a lot of poets came out and writers came out of that.
Yep.
And that's so the pro-Bulgarians that are left are only in the mountains of Pindos, only in Florina, the Triangle.
What's the population there like now? Is it the same?
That's got the highest depopulation rate in Europe.
Right. Due to?
No economic opportunities.
Yes.
And I can imagine the people from one night to the other, their families be split from the one side and the other side. I know stories that people lost the kids, the brothers or whatever because of the borders.
Yes.
They were in the same village and say, now from here, this part is Greek and this part is Bulgarian, for example.
Yep.
Same thing happened in Epiro with the border with Albania.
Yes.
Which was carved by the Italians.
Correct.
So you had the villages in the mountains on the south side of the border, but their fields were on the north side of the border where all the water was.
Which, if you don't have the water, it's useless. Absolutely.
And you lost all your...
You lost everything.
You lost everything.
And what those days looked like is what I've just published a few months ago in my book of Trelaw's photographs. An Australian who was involved in a relief effort with the League of Nations. And he recorded from when they arrived to how they were first housed in tents and sacks and all the way through to the first houses.
Can I ask
something? It's an amazing
something?
Collection of photographs.
In the formation of the like modern state, as we say, the Greek modern state, it was based on religion
Absolutely.
and language.
Absolutely.
So
Even today, it still is.
So what happened? Whoever, let's say, for example, if you don't speak Greek, you should go. Is that correct?
Unless you're
willing
to become Greek.
to become Greek.
So these are examples where religion is not used in the true sense of what religion is, but it's used as a political tool in geography.
It's
Religion's been used as a political tool since the year dot.
It has, but this is the core example
but
of that.
Christine, when you are in this situation and you need to establish a new nation, that's what you do. You say our nation will be established on religion and language.
Yeah.
You had people coming from Trapezunda, for example, or Kerasunda, which were major ports in Pondos, with schools with almost university level education, who spoke fluent Greek. And at the same time, you had people coming across the river from Adrianoupoli in Eastern Thrace, who only spoke Turkish.
That's going to be a great topic in the future with the genocide.
And they were expelled because of their faith. Because the Ottoman Empire, never forget, the Ottoman Empire was a theocratic state.
Yes.
Your status, your identity was where did you worship? A lot of animosity from these people living on I don't know if you've ever been, I have, to Gozani, Florina. Those mountains are very rough, very hard to grow. They're very beautiful, but it's hard to live.
Very harsh conditions.
Very harsh conditions. So when the rich farmland in the valleys which was owned by Muslims, the Muslims were forced to leave, were given to the refugees, the survivors from the genocide. The locals didn't understand about genocide or anything. They just saw, these guys are getting free handouts.
Free handouts.
I'm going to go with the guy that doesn't like these free handouts.
Yep.
So these Nashi-speaking people, they've never called their language Macedonia. They call it Poor Nashi, which means Dadikamas. Below about 60 years old, hardly anybody speaks it. It's a mixture of old Slavic Bulgarian, basically, Greek, Vlasica, bit of old Ottoman Turkish. It's a patois.
Yeah.
It's a language of convenience.
Well, this area...
And dialect, and village to village, the dialect will change.
That still exists, doesn't it, in a lot of places?
But these guys became the core of what we call the Macedonians, the modern Macedonians.
Yes.
The anti-Greek ones.
The anti-Greek ones that continue.
Because they're on the left, unfortunately.
Sorry, guys. It's the truth. No, you're unpacking it beautifully.
And now I'm getting to very dangerous turf.
Yeah.
I've written about this, I co-wrote about this a long time ago and was blasted by the left in Sydney for even touching it. The Belomazuma.
Yeah.
Just say that again.
The Belomazuma, the child gathering, the Civil War period, not of the Ottoman period. There's two different cases. A number of the leaders of the Slav Macedonian community in Australia, by descent now, because the oldies are almost all gone, are from Florina and Castorial. They were fighters, or their families were fighters, in the first case with the Komitadzidas, with the Bulgarians, who then joined the communists, and when they lost the civil war, left the country. A lot of their villages were destroyed.
I think that's a topic for the part 2.
I think we should stop.
Yeah, okay. So what happened? We wrapped up the period from
The interwar
80s, 70s, okay, till the interwar period.
The myths of Macedonianism are complex.
Yeah.
It's a group of people, in one sentence, searching for their own history and their own identity. And when they look at things like DNA, they find they're Slavs. They're originally from the Volga region of what we call Russia. They're not linked with the ancients in any way, shape or form.
Yeah. But history gives us clarity. History, you find writing, you find coins, you find a whole lot of things in regions which they believe belong to them. And there you're finding thousand-year-old Greek relics.
And this is where we'll close it. How many countries in the world, well, not anymore, but used to have Greek writing on their banknotes?
I wouldn't know.
3.
Which are?
Hellenic Republic, Republic of Cyprus, and Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
The old Afghanistan, pre-Taliban, their banknotes had an old coin of the Gandhara kingdom, which is the southern part of Afghanistan, one of the kingdoms left behind by Alexander's people.
Yeah, well, there you go.
With Greek writing on
History.
the coin.
And it was on the notes.
And it's on the banknotes. You can Google it.
Well, because this is a big topic.
It is a very big topic.
Part A.
Part A.
Tell us what we're going to talk about in Part B.
World War II onwards, basically 1940s onwards, which is when we really start getting into what we understand of the Macedonian issue, where you have the Cold War, the struggle between the two great powers, who's going to control the Aegean. That's really the point.
But then you've got the Ottomans that are coming in, another entity that want to control the Aegean as well.
And that's what we're going to talk about, because ultimately the game has not changed.
It's still there.
Some of the players have changed. USSR is gone. Russian Federation is still there.
Yes.
Americans comes
Ottoman
in.
Empire is gone. Republic of
still-
Turkey is there.
Yeah.
British Empire is gone. Is
Yeah.
it?
Is it? Not really.
Not really.
Exactly.
Not really. Okay.
The British and the Americans are still there. So some of the faces have changed.
The objectives are the same,
But the
though.
objectives are exactly the same.
That's a very nice
Way
way
to end?
to
end?
finish this episode.
So thank you for following, and thank you to Panayoti.
My pleasure.
And we will continue part B and into World War II to where we are today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
I'm Christine Stavropoulos,
Κι εγώ ο Νίκος Σαμίδης. Και αυτό είναι το Greek Podyssey, το podcast της Ομογένειας.
a podcast for Hellenes worldwide, sharing stories, culture, identity, laughs, and a little bit of tsugrisma along the way.
Γιατί μπορεί να φύγαμε από την Ελλάδα, αλλά η Ελλάδα δεν έφυγε ποτέ από μας.